happen here is this, and I'm going to actually expand it a little bit more from what we've talked about in the past. But I've got these two capillary beds that are connected by a portal vein. Okay, they're coloring it red. I can't talk about. I don't know why that's the case, but it's a portal vein. Okay, it should probably be more of a purple color. And of course the capillaries are going to be fenestrated. And so what will happen is the anterior lobe is going to secrete certain hormones. But in order for it to secrete hormones, it needs a chemical messenger to induce that. What is going to produce the chemical messenger to induce it is going to be my hypothalamus. And so there's going to be two classifications of hormones that the hypothalamus can secrete. They will be releasing hormones and inhibiting hormones. Releasing hormones and inhibiting hormones. And so what will happen, the hypothalamus is going to secrete both at the same time. It's going to secrete both at the same time. But what will happen, if the releasing hormone concentration is secreted at a greater rate than the inhibiting hormone, then what will happen is this anterior pituitary is going to secrete more of a particular hormone. But if the inhibiting hormone secretion exceeds the releasing hormone secretion, then the anterior lobe is going to secrete less of a particular hormone. You guys see? Okay? And so the example of this is going to be growth hormone. I think that's the one I have on page 7 for you guys. Oh wait, hold on. Yeah. Actually, there's one more thing I want to talk about. And that is this. I actually sort of talked about it, but I got a diagram to illustrate it a little bit better. Alrighty. So what I have here is another classification scheme. I dealt with a chemical classification, and I'm going to deal with a functional classification. And I've already mentioned these terms, but the illustration here is far better. And so the typical thing that we think about is you have an endocrine gland, and it secretes a hormone. It comes in contact with the target tissue, and the target tissue responds, right? Okay, insulin, bloodstream, liver, we store glucose as glycogen. When that's the case, we'll call it a non-tropic hormone. We will call it a non-tropic hormone. But there's another very common scenario where an endocrine gland is going to secrete a hormone, but the hormone is not going to go to the target tissue, it's going to go to another endocrine gland. So when you have a hormone that is going to another endocrine gland, I'm going to call that a tropic hormone. Okay? And then this endocrine gland is going to have some sort of a response. It's going to secrete something. It'll come in contact with the target tissue, and there'll be a response. Okay? So now what we're dealing with is, and by the way, when you dealt with the male and the female system, you were dealing with a lot of tropic hormones. Do you guys follow? And gonadotropin, that was a tropic hormone, releasing hormone. Alrighty, so you've been dealing with it, and I'm not going to be dealing with those again because we've dealt with them. So the first one I'm going to deal with is the two non-tropic hormones. These are, of course, the easy ones. Okay? And so turn to page 7. I'll keep this up. And turn to page 7. That outline is just detailing the illustration. The way these handouts evolved, when I first started teaching, I had none of this. You just took really good notes and hope you got it all. You would have hated it, Andy.
You think so?
I think so.
Yeah.
Maybe. We'll see. I don't know. Then I started doing the outlines. Students like that. Yeah, they like that quite a bit. And I let them read tape. We had tape recorders back then, and they like that as well. And then as I continue doing stuff on the board, then it starts turning into pictures. And so it's just a slow development. And a couple of years I'll be retiring, and at that point I'm ready to start teaching, but it's too late, right? Sort of like raising kids. Say what?
You're retiring?
I hope not. Well, I'm 62. I'm either 62 or 63. I think I'm 62, and I'll be 63 shortly. So, so it's a couple of years, probably.
Probably not teach for fun.
Say what?
You're probably going to keep teaching for fun.
Say again?
You're probably going to keep teaching for fun.
For fun, absolutely. Yeah, as long as I can, I'll keep teaching for fun, but not as much as I do right now. Sort of like raising kids. Raising kids. You know, when you're doing it the first time, you're messing up all the time. Okay? And when you're all done, you guys who are parents, well, you probably are in the midst of it, but when you're all done, you'll know how to do it. Right? But at that point, it's too late. They're gone. Is that right? Is that right? Anybody?
I am way better at parenting my third child than I was with my first.
Oh, yeah.
Although he's better, my first is better behaved.
Yeah.
I'm tireder now. I don't have energy.
Alrighty, you guys, so let's do it. So look at page 7. And so, and we talked a lot about this in A&P1. You remember bone growth and little Johnny growing like a freaking weed and growth hormone. You know, we talked about this. And so the what is actually going to regulate this, of course, is the hypothalamus. That regulates growth. And there's going to be 2 hormones that the hypothalamus secretes. Growth hormone releasing hormone and growth hormone inhibiting hormone. It's written right there. And again, when you're dealing with these endocrine glands, they never just turn on or off. It's always just a matter of degree. Okay? And so what will happen if growth hormone releasing hormone concentration goes up and growth hormone inhibiting concentration goes down, then the pituitary glands are going to start secreting more what? Growth hormone. Okay, human growth hormone. That's going to have 4 effects. A&P1, we only dealt with 1. Okay? So we'll review that. But at any rate, number 1, you guys remember that as little Johnny is growing, his humerus, or Janie's little humerus, that actually consists of what? 3 bony parts connected by 2 hyaline cartilage growth plates. Do you guys see? And if you recall from way back when, what maintains that growth plate is human growth hormone. And of course, what will happen is that, as the child is growing, you're going to have these growth spurts. And so when there's more growth hormone, there's a growth spurt. When there's less growth hormone, we're out of the growth spurt. And so the first thing that it does is growth hormone maintains the growth plate and causes those cells to proliferate. Okay? And so you're going to get that whole growth process. The next thing is this. When you're growing, guys, that takes a lot of energy. You need a lot of ATP. Okay? And of course, you guys know protein or carbohydrate gives me how much energy per gram? 4 kilocalories. But lipid gives me what? 9. More than twice the energy. Okay, more than twice the ATP. And so what's going to happen, you can see here, as we're starting to work down there, I'm looking at some triglycerides. And what growth hormone will do, it'll begin to break those down, and I'll feed them into what? Beta oxidation. And the result is we went through that with the liver and the heart twice. But what I'll start doing is with beta oxidation, I'm just going to be breaking that down in these little acetyl groups. You guys remember? Feeding it into the carbon side, getting a lot of electrons, and making lots of what? TP? ATP. Lots of ATP. And you guys know, if you have a little kid, some of these kids, when I was a teenager, I ate like a pig. I mean, huge quantities of food on a daily basis. And I was svelte. I could not get fat. Okay? And that's the way it is. Then all of a sudden, of course, life changes. Right? And now I'm so used to eating a lot of food, but now what happens, I don't burn it off, and I have a what? I've got a midlife crisis right there. Right? Belly. Say what?
Call it a success story.
Success story?
Good.
That's not a success, that's a tragedy.
Oh. No.
Do you have a pot belly? You have a beer belly. Do you have beer belly? No.
I have a 29-inch waist.
Say what?
I have a 29-inch waist.
Very skeletal.
Oh, enjoy it while it lasts. I've got a 36-inch waist, and it's not going anymore. It's going back down to what it should be. Like, I think I've always used to be like 32-ish. But I was never that thin. Okay. At any rate, when you're growing, of course, say what?
No, I just said I have some jeans he can borrow if he needs some new clothes. We were talking about clothes shopping earlier. Maybe
Okay.
A little skinny. Skinny tight.
But you might look cute in it, James. You might want to try it out.
Adorable.
Listen, if you're growing, you need to, you need ATP to make the enzymes and all that stuff. But realize, when you are growing, what you're doing is you are making a lot of protein, because our primary structure is a whole lot of protein. And so what that also does, it enhances amino acid uptake, so I can make, a lot of collagen or whatever else is needed for the growth process. And then, finally, is this. You guys remember, this is your very first lecture in AMP1. But you guys remember metabolism, the sum total of all the biochemical reactions that occur in the body. You guys remember? And of course, we can divide that up into two. There are anabolic reactions and catabolic reactions. And so if the buildup and the breakdown reactions are going at the same rate, well, I'm going to be maintaining my structure and my weight. But if anabolic exceeds catabolic, I'm going to be making more structure, and I'll probably could be gaining weight. And likewise, if catabolic exceeds anabolic, then I will be burning. If catabolic, I'll be gaining weight. Does that make sense?
Catabolic, you'd be losing weight, I thought.
I got to start all over again. I messed up. So if you have anabolic exceeds catabolic, you're going to be gaining structure, okay? Possibly gaining weight. But if the catabolic exceeds the anabolic, losing, okay? And so what happens is growth hormone shifts your metabolic activity, okay? In such manner that anabolic reactions exceed the catabolic reactions, and the result is growth occurs. You guys see? Okay. Very good. All right. Okay, next are the tropic hormones. So I think what I'm going to do is give you guys a quick break. Is that all right? Okay, do a quick break. Some of you guys are looking at the clock now, and that's usually a sign that it's time to break.